few questions for you. How to understand the true meaning of life? How to accept death? How to help the dying and the dead? You do realize death is a natural part of life, which we will all surely have to face sooner or later. 64,000 is the median number of words per book. Average person reads about 200 words per minute. Simple math will tell us that is one book in 320 minutes. To accomplish this in 7 days, numbers say you would have to read for 45 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button, like, comment, and share. Enjoy. Welcome to Season 9 of the Book of the Week series. My name is Igor. For years I've walked and I've listened. This series is the record of that discipline, not just sharing books, but sharing a method to cut through the noise. Today we listen to the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. So for the next few minutes, let this be an invitation to slow down, to reduce the noise, to make a choice to listen. This book offers readers not just a theoretical account of death and dying, but also practical measures for understanding and for preparing themselves and others in a calm and a fulfilling way. So stick around till the end. This season, I'm not just sharing a tool. I'm sharing the foundational layer. I'll show you how to identify a single most important frequency in all the noise of your life. The innate human need that is secretly driving your decisions, your behavior, and your sense of overwhelm or fulfillment. It is the first critical step on what I call the listener's path. But first, let's listen to the past. Let's listen to the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. For all its technological achievements, modern Western society has no real understanding of death or what happens in death or after death. I've learned that people today are taught to deny death. And they're actually taught that it means nothing but annihilation and loss. It means that most of the world lives either in denial of death or in terror of it. Even talking about death is considered morbid. And many people believe that simply mentioning death is to risk wishing it upon ourselves. Others look on death with a naive, thoughtless cheerfulness, thinking that for some unknown reason, death will work out just all right for them. And it's nothing to worry about. When I think of them, I'm reminded of what one Tibetan master says. People often make mistakes of being frivolous about death. They think, oh well, death happens to everyone, not a big deal, it's natural, I'll be fine. This is a nice theory until one is dying. Modern industrial society is a fanatical religion. We are demolishing, poisoning, destroying all life systems on the planet. We are signing IOUs our children will not be able to pay. We're acting as if we were the last generation on the planet. Now, without a radical change in heart, in mind, in vision, the earth will end up just like Venus, charred and dead. Fear of death and ignorance of the afterlife are actually fueling that destruction of our environment that is actually threatening all of our lives. So isn't it all the more disturbing that people are not taught what death is or even how to die? The Master knows that if people believe in life after this one, their whole outlook on life will be different. They will have a distinct sense of personal responsibility and even morality. What the masters must suspect is that there is a danger that people who have no strong belief in a life after this one will create a society fixated on short-term results without much thought for the consequences of their actions. Could this be a major reason why we have created a brutal world like the one we are now living, with very little real compassion? In the Buddhist approach, life and death are seen as one whole, where death is the beginning of another chapter of life. Death is a mirror in which the entire meaning of life is reflected. So from the Tibetan Buddhist point of view, we can divide our entire existence into 4 continuously interlinked realities. Number 1, life. Number 2, dying and death. Number 3, after death. And number 4, rebirth. Now, these are known as the 4 BARDOs. The number 1, the natural BARDO of this life. The number 2, the painful BARDO of dying. The number 3, the luminous BARDO of dharmata. And number 4, the karmic BARDO of becoming. See, sometimes I think that the greatest achievement of modern culture is its brilliant selling of samsara and its barren destructions. Modern society seems to be a celebration of all the things that lead away from the truth, make truth harder to live for, and actually discourage people from even believing that it actually exists, and to think that all this springs from a civilization that claims to adore life, but actually starves it of any real meaning, endlessly speaks of making people happy, but in fact blocks their way from the source of real joy. Switch on the television, glance in newspapers, you will see death everywhere. Yet, did the victims of those plane crashes and car accidents expect to die? They took life for granted, as we do. How often do we hear stories of people who we know, or even friends, who died unexpectedly? Unexpectedly. You don't even have to be ill to die. Our bodies can suddenly break down and go out of order, just like our cars can. Our task is to strike a balance, to find a middle way, to learn not to overstretch ourselves with extraneous activities and preoccupations, but to actually simplify our lives more and more. The key to finding a happy balance in modern lives is actually simplicity. Peace of mind will come from this. You would have more time to pursue the things of the spirit, and the knowledge that only spiritual truth can bring, which can help you face death. Sadly, few of us do this. Whatever we have done with our lives makes us what we are when we die. And everything, absolutely everything counts. One of the chief reasons we have so much anguish and difficulty facing death is that we ignore the truth of impermanence. So we so desperately want everything to continue as it is, that we have to believe that things will always stay the same. But this is only make-believe. And we so often discover belief has as little or nothing to do with reality. This make-believe, this misinformation, these ideas, these assumptions, is the rickety foundation on which we construct our lives. And no matter how much the truth keeps interrupting, we still prefer to go on trying with hopeless bravado to keep on pretense, our pretense. In our minds, change is always equal loss and suffering. And if they come, we try to anesthetize ourselves as far as possible, as much as possible. We assume stupidly and unquestioningly that permanence provides security and impermanence does not. In fact, impermanence is like some of the people we meet in life, difficult and disturbing at first, but on deeper acquaintance, far friendlier and less unnerving than we could have even imagined. Reflect on this. The realization of impermanence is paradoxically the only thing we can hold on, perhaps our only lasting possession. Although we have been made to believe that if we let go we will end up with nothing, life itself reveals again and again and again actually the opposite, that letting go is the path to real freedom. Just as when the waves lash at the shores, the rocks suffer no damage, but are actually sculpted and eroded into beautiful shapes. So our character can be molded, and our rough edges can be worn smooth by changes. Difficulties and obstacles, if properly understood and used, can often turn out to be an unexpected source of strength. And in the biographies of masters, you will often find that had they not faced difficulties and obstacles, they would not have discovered the strength they needed to rise above them. See, always recognize the dreamlike qualities of life and reduce attachment and aversion. Practice good-heartedness towards all beings, loving and compassionate no matter what others do to you. What they will do will no matter so much when you actually see it as a dream. Now the trick is to have positive intention during the dream. This is the essential point. This is true spirituality. What we have to learn in both meditation and in life is to be free of attachment to the good experiences and free of aversion to the negative ones. The truth and the driving force behind rebirth is what we call karma. Now, karma is often totally misunderstood in the West as faith or predestination, but it is best thought of as the infallible law of cause and effect that actually governs the universe. The word karma literally means action, and karma is both power latent within actions and the result of that our actions do bring. In simple terms, what does karma mean? It means that whatever we do with our bodies, our speech, our mind, will actually have a corresponding result. Each action, even the smallest, is pregnant with its consequences. It is said by the masters that even a little poison can cause death, and even a tiny seed can become a huge tree. The kind of birth we will have in the next life is actually determined then by the nature of our actions in this one. And it is important never to forget, that the effect of our actions deepen and entirely depend on the intention or the motivation behind them, not upon their scale. Karma then is not a fatalistic and predetermined. It means our ability to create and to change. It is creative because we can determine how and why we act. We can change. See, then the future is in our hands and in the hands of our heart. Two people have been living in you all of your life. One is the ego, demanding, hysterical, calculating, and the other is this hidden spiritual being whose still voice of wisdom you have only rarely heard or attended to. Now, as you listen more and more to the teachings, contemplate them, integrate them into your life, your inner voice, your innate discernment, what is called in Buddhism discriminating awareness, is actually awakened and strengthened, and you begin to distinguish between its guidance and the various clamorous voices of the ego. To follow the path of wisdom has never been more urgent and more difficult. Our society is dedicated almost entirely to the celebration of ego with all its sad fantasies about success and about power. To follow the path of wisdom has actually never been more urgent or more difficult. Our society is almost dedicated entirely to the celebration of ego with all its sad fantasies about success, about power. And it celebrates those forces of greed and ignorance that are destroying the planet. It has never been more difficult to hear the unflattering voice of the truth. and never more difficult, once having heard it, to follow it. Because there's nothing in the world around us that supports our choice. And the entire society in which we live negates every idea of any sort of sacredness or internal meaning. So at the time of our most acute danger, when our very future is actually in doubt, we as human beings find ourselves at our most bewildered and also trapped in a nightmare of our own creation. Recognizing who is and who is not a true master is a very subtle and demanding business. In an age like ours, addicted to entertainment, easy answers, quick fixes, the more sober and untheatrical attributes of spiritual mastery might very well go unnoticed. Many people in the West are suspicious of the masters. Often, unfortunately, for good reasons. I do not have to catalog here the many dreadful and disappointing cases of charlatanry that have occurred in the modern world since the opening to Eastern wisdom in the 50s and in the 60s. However, all the great wisdom traditions, whether Christian, Sufi, Buddhist, Hindu, doesn't matter. They rely for their force on their master-disciple relationship. And so, what the world needs urgently now is a clear as possible understanding of what a real master is, what a real student or disciple is, and what the true nature of the transformation is that actually does take place of the devotion to the master, which you might call the alchemy of discipleship. See, I found that in all grave situations in life, two things are most helpful: a common sense approach and a sense of humor. Humor is a marvelous way of lightening the atmosphere, helping to put the process of dying and its truth in the universal perspective, and breaking the over-seriousness and the intensity of the situation. So use humor then as comfortably and as gently as possible. And I also found from my own experience that it is essential not to take anything too personally. Being aware of your own fears about dying will help you immeasurably to be aware of the fears of the dying person. Now just imagine deeply what those might be. Fear of increasing uncontrolled pain, fear of suffering, fear of indignity, fear of dependence, fear that lives we have led have been meaningless, fear of separation from all of life, fear of losing control, fear of losing respect. Perhaps our greatest fear of all, the fear of fear itself, which actually grows more and more powerful the more we try to evade it. Usually when you feel fear, you feel isolated and you feel alone and without company. But when somebody keeps company with you and talks of his or her own fears, then you realize fears are universal. And the edge and this personal pain is actually taken away, taken off. See, our state of mind at death is all important. If we die in a positive frame of mind, we can improve our next birth despite our negative karma. And if we are upset and we are distressed, it may actually have a detrimental effect, even though we may have used all of our lives really well. Now, this means that last thoughts, last emotions that we do have before we die, they have an extremely powerful determining effect on our immediate future. Let go of grasping, yearning, and attachment. So often in the modern world, when somebody dies, one of the deepest sources of anguish for those left behind to mourn is their conviction that there is nothing that they can now do to help their loved one who has gone. A conviction that only aggravates and darkens the loneliness of their own grief. But this is not true. There are many, many ways we can help the dead and also help ourselves to survive their absence. To see death then through realized eyes is to see death in the context of this wholeness and as a part and only part of this beginningless and endless movement. The uniqueness and the power of the BARDO teachings is that they actually reveal to us by showing with total clarity the actual process of death, the actual process of life as well. Let us look now at what happens to a person who dies at each of the 3 crucial stages of death. Number 1, at the culmination of the process of dying, after the dissolution of elements, senses, and thought states, the ultimate nature of mind, the grand luminosity is for a moment laid bare. Number 2, then fleeting, the radiance of that nature of mind is actually displayed and shines out in appearances of sound, colors, and light. And number 3, the next, the dead person consciousness awakens and enters into the bardo of becoming. His or her ordinary mind returns and takes on the manifestation, the form of the mental body, which is the subject to the dictates of the past karma and past habits. Now these drive the ordinary mind to cling on to the illusory bardo experience as something real, something solid. What unravels with such clarity in the bardo of mind, the bardo of dharmata, and in the bardo of becoming, the teachings show us is a threefold process. First, leading to laying bare, then radiance, then crystallization and manifestation. Now this threefold pattern does not only unfold in the process of dying and death, it is unfolding right now, in this very moment, and in every moment within our mind, in our thoughts, our emotions, and in every single level of our conscious experience. Thinking of and thinking about David Bohm and his remarkable explanation of reality, I am tempted to wonder what a great scientist, who is also a real accomplished spiritual practitioner trained by a great master, could discover. What would a scientist and a sage, a world champion and an Einstein all in one, what would they have to tell us about the nature of reality? Is that one of the future flowerings of the great tree of the Bardo teachings? Scientific, mystical dialogue, one that we can still only barely imagine, with that we seem to be on the threshold of. And what would that mean for humanity? See, this book is giving you a sacred technology by which you can transform not only your present life, and not only your dying and your death, but also your future lives, and so the future of humanity. And there you have it, the Tibetan book of living and dying. Now, if this moment of focused listening brought you any value, any clarity, or simple peace, I ask you to do 3 things that cost you nothing but help this signal reach others. Number 1, like the video, so the algorithm shares it with more seekers. Number 2, share it with one person who actually needs to hear this message. And number 3, subscribe to stay in this channel of focused insight. The link to this book is in the description below. Read, buy it, read, never stop learning, especially about yourself, because the greatest history, the greatest secret destiny is actually your own. Your first step on the path? Well, gift yourself 10 minutes of self-listening. Take the free definitive human needs test on my website. It will reveal the core need driving your life's narrative. That revelation is your first layer, so find the link below. And when you are ready to move from understanding to artistry, to master the skills of self-awareness and self-management, social awareness and relationship management that turn insight into impact, you will explore my Master of Life Awareness program. Now that is the journey, and it all begins with listening. Thank you. Love and respect.